it's like our shared humanity, to return to our hearts, to return to kindness, to return to generosity. That's what I hear a lot, is they're trying to encourage people to return to those ways, to understand our place in the web of life and the web of creation. And also I hear them talk a lot about not getting possessive, encouraging us to understand that. I have heard this message from them in so many different places. It's like, we don't own this. This isn't.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
Hello, and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. Always a blessing to be with you all. Well, I'm so excited about today's guest, the beautiful and magnificent Liv Wheeler. Have I said your second name right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much.
Liv, she sent me the most, she filled out the request form and sent me the most, on the request form I say, why do you want to be on the show? The most beautiful email I think I have ever received. I was so humbled by what you said. And I put your appreciation for the shows and for me on my website, because I was just crying when I read your email. I'm like, oh my God, this woman is amazing. And then, of course, I checked out you and your work, and darling one, you are amazing. Honestly, you are doing some magnificent, beautiful, sublime spiritual work in the world. And I can't wait to explore a bit more of it with you. So let me tell people a little bit about you from your bio.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And your story reads a bit like mine. It says, much of Liv's earth journey has been about healing and finding the courage to express as a woman of spirit in this 3D world. She's worked diligently through the years to overcome a nearly debilitating fear of speaking in public and with the public, which I can relate to. Liv also experienced real opposition and slander in this lifetime that she has had to find a way to heal and transform. Liv feels that this must be a big part of her soul's growth in this lifetime. Liv Wheeler is an initiative Kontomblé Voice Diviner. Have I said that right?
Mm-hmm.
Ritual facilitator.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And multidimensional spiritual teacher who has dedicated her life to reweaving the human experience with the sacred. For the past 16 years, Liv has traveled the world connecting people to the vast ecologies of spirit that exists in all communities. A voice for the little people of the earth, she has reignited people's awareness of the spirit realm across cultures and landscapes. Liv reconnects communities with the very real experience of the spiritual world that is a complex and intricate as the one we experience in our daily physical lives. She embodies the initiated feminine role of priestess and spiritual teacher in honor of the healing of the feminine, as well as the tending to the shrines of the other worlds, That's fascinating. I'll have to ask you. I'll have to ask you about that. I don't actually know what that is. Her book called With the Love of the Ancients, My Spiritual Journey of Remembering, is a vulnerable sharing of her journey. Liv chose to share with great transparency to encourage others who feel handicapped by their traumas and fears to see it's possible to move through them and come out the other side. She encourages you to express vulnerably because she has found that this brings people together by seeing and feeling our shared humanity. I so concur. So many people, write to me and say, put me on your show, and they tell me how fantastic they are, but they don't tell me who they are. You know, like,
Oh,
why
oh,
do
yeah,
you
yeah,
do
yeah,
why do
yeah.
you do what you do? And, you know, be vulnerable. Like something happened that
Yeah,
maybe wasn't great and that put you on this path for the most
yeah.
part. And vulnerability is what I'm all about. In the past few years, Liv has been more focused on conscious creation, consciously moving from feeling victimized by the circumstances to understanding how we've always created consciously and unconsciously. Yeah, everything that's happening to us through our conscious and unconscious creation. Liv is also the creator of The Remembering, a featured documentary, a story of remembering our ancient connections. It's about a group of women who pilgrimage into North Mongolia to heal the wounds created by the disconnection from our ancestors.
Yeah, probably the modern disconnection from our ancestors. Yeah.
And our ancient relationship with the little people of the earth. I encourage people to go and check out the trailer for that. I might even put a bit of it on this podcast of the Remembering Film Tour, especially what they were saying about it in Tokyo. There's a clip on your website of that.
Yeah.
So beautiful. And your
Thank
website
you.
is called Earth's Amulet. So Earth's with an S, AMULET.com. Okay, well. So I'm going to ask you this question for me and for the people listening. What is the Kontomblé Voice Diviner? What is the Kontomblé?
To say the Kontomblé would be maybe like saying the gnomes or the elves or they're the little people of Burkina Faso, West Africa.
Okay.
In a very windy way that my spiritual journey has gone, has the road, the way it's gone, it led me to my longtime teacher, Malidoma Somé, who is now on the other side, Elder Malidoma Patrice Somé of the Dagra people, the Dagra tribe of Burkina Faso, West Africa. So I was led to study, to work with him, and I studied and supported him for like a total of 8 years, and then went to Burkina. There would be, in a way, it would be pilgrimages there too. But however exactly soul and spirit goes, from birth, the Kontomblé have been with me. So that's like saying, you know, if we're in maybe Iceland or some of the places where the elves are known to be, I believe there are a lot in the north, but they move in different parts of the earth anyway. But the Kontomblé, they're known in a particular region of Burkina Faso, West Africa, and so I have come to realize also through my remembering with working with Maladam and also with the Kontomblé is that the little people are all around the earth or everywhere. There's wherever our ancestors are from, most of our ancestors are so braided anyway. It's rare that one person is just from some region, but wherever they're from, if we went back to the beginning, to the beginning of the tradition of the culture, then they would know the different little people likely, and they would likely have many names for the little people. Also, according to, sometimes they're known as nature spirits, but the way I experience it is they come through the body of nature. So they're not necessarily, so let's say there's water spirits, but the way I experience the Kontomblé or the different little people, they're moving through the body of that element or of the trees or of the mountains or of the caves. So they have different ones. They live in different places of the natural world, but really ultimately I experience them that they come from the stars and they move, you know, interdimensionally and through the different star systems, and they are supporting our evolution. The different little people are supporting our evolution and also our earth guardians. earth guardians, and so they tend to the natural world. And a lot of the stories that I've been told, and also heard from the little people in different parts of the earth, is that they would be working with the different people there and help them to find ways with the different beings of the natural world that is harmonious for all.
Mm-hmm.
So ways that they can work with the animals or the beings of the sea in ways that it's harmonious for all, and also that they're growing, everybody's growing enriched from the process. They're learning, they're evolving in different ways. So nowadays it seems that it happens that the little people, well, I think this has probably been true throughout time too, they naturally come to different children, and they're guides of different people.
Mm.
And those people, a lot of times those people would be healers. They would be, working with the earth in different ways. And some in traditional cultures, then they would recognize that the child that's with those little people, and then they would help to, somebody that also had those connections would help to like foster those connections, help them to understand how to work with them. I know that's a long windy response, but yeah, I feel them really strong right now.
It's a beautiful response. So the Kontomblé have also been called the elemental world, or the Fae by the Irish, or the
Right.
fairies, or there's been many names, or the little people.
The Fae,
They encompass, the elemental world encompasses, all different intentions and types of energies, like the gnomes and the fairies and the water spirits, and they're just,
I feel them with you. Yeah, I feel them with you. That's why I had a feeling this would happen. I can notice when there's different things being spoken through me that have ever been spoken before. It's the effect of my spirit meeting you're connecting with your spirit, because of your connections too.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's what I feel.
My next door neighbor, who's just moved out, actually, she's such a great gardener. She really wasn't into it because she's a Catholic girl and she's schooled in the Catholicism and all that Catholicism has to offer. She walked in here one day, I've said this on another podcast, and this golden fairy, or this golden light, followed her, and it had a tail and it had a sound. It kind of went,
wow.
Zoop, and she walked in the door, and I'm looking behind her going, and she said, "What are you looking at?" And I said, a golden fairy came in the door with you. And so, that, she's such
beautiful.
This green thumb, this amazing, this appreciation of the natural world. And she was working with this golden fairy energy. It was so beautiful. It's the only time I've ever seen a golden one. It was beautiful. And then it made a sound too. It was like, zip, had a little zippy sound.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And also, I want to speak to what you were mentioning from the beginning. It was the Kontomblé that asked me to reach out to you. And because I live guided by, I could say guided by spirit, but even especially the Kontomblé. So not knowing, of course, when I was listening to your different interviews and everything, I love listening to all of them. And as I said, and what I shared about you also, is feeling your beautiful heart and golden energy yourself. But so I didn't know why, but I just trust that. And then now already I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, the energy is. And I also wondered, this might seem random, but I don't know, are you connected to the Arcturians by any chance?
Yep. Absolutely.
That's why, because I was practicing yoga earlier, and then I don't know if you receive it like this, the different galactics, when I hear them, I'll hear like you were mentioning the sound, and I was hearing like ooh, a certain sound in my ear, but different. And so I listened and I was like, what is that? And I was asking, who is that? And they were saying it's the Arcturians. And I don't work with the Arcturians. I mean, I haven't experienced them yet. They said Arcturians, and they were saying something. I was like, wow, you have a strong energy. And then they were saying something about working. They said, we like working with you, or something like that. And then and then right after that, that's when I got your email. And then I thought, I wonder if she's connected to the Arcturians, because I made that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Arcturians are a big part
Oh,
of
it's strong, beautiful energy.
what I call the mob. They say to me that they work with the mind and thought forms, and a bit like, when I was reading your bio, you were saying that much of the work has been about conscious creation. So they're really helping us become conscious and aware and deliberate in the way we flow our energy, the way we think, what we believe. They're a big part of that. There are many galactics working with that, but the Arcturians are a big part of that sort of mental matrix that creates worlds and planets and universes. But I want to hear about what happened for you to remember your connection with the Kontomblé and your spirit guides and the galactics. What was your wake-up call?
My wake-up call, to say it in a kind of simple way, my wake-up call was when I was younger, around age 20, 21, still in the kind of programming of modernity, you could say, without being aware of that, because I hadn't experienced myself as any other way. And so I was kind of like going through the motions of going to school, getting a job, and was working as a court reporter, actually. And then it was just like one by one that I was seeing all of these kind of, I would say it felt like lies that I was programmed with. And then it just was revealing itself naturally, because I have direct experience is really important for me. I learn a lot through the direct experience, and through direct experience, I was understanding that I had been embodying a lie without realizing it. So what I mean by that is it could be anything of, just a story of that you go through this process and then you're going to be happy if you're making money. And then, when you're this like functioning member of society or something like that, and that you'll feel good about yourself or something. And I found it actually to be completely opposite. And because felt like it was participating in a reality structure that had to do with somebody's less than and somebody's above than, and you've got to find your place in this. And nobody was saying it out loud, but you could feel it, and it felt really unhealthy. It felt super unhealthy. And I just couldn't live it. I just tried it for a little while, and my body was resisting it. It was just like, this is not going to work. And I realized when I was doing something that felt out of alignment, out of congruence with my being, it felt hollow. It felt really hollow. And I was trying to compensate with buying things. I was trying to compensate for the deficit that I felt internally. And then, so basically from that friction, from that rub, that internal friction and that rub, I just realized, I said, I can't do this. I've been living somebody else's truth without realizing it. So I need to find, what is my truth? So I set out to find it around age, I guess that would be around age 21, went to California. But so that, I guess in some ways that started an unraveling of conditioning. Like the conditioning started unraveling, and the way I experienced what people refer to as awakening, I wouldn't call myself awakened. I would say I'm in the process. So little by little, the unraveling, goes. And so that unraveling started, and I realized what felt true for me was to live from the heart. And I just started following my heart. I started following my intuition. And then it guided me to the San Francisco Bay Area, and I just kept following it. And every time I followed it, I noticed things got better. And I felt more content, and I felt better inside. I felt more and more I followed it. It's like, this is right, following my heart. And then that led me into working with children for a while, and then again, a kind of twisty way on the path to the healing arts. And then following intuition, Spirit's voice was getting stronger without me realizing that. and I was studying all these different healing arts and energy healing and everything. And then, and then it guided me. I just was asking, what is, because I could feel there was a direct one that I hadn't touched yet, but I could feel it. And then I put the question out to the universe, and it came in a very, very strong message of shamanism. Again, like I didn't know at that time what that meant. I just knew it was the response that I was having. And again, just following the path in this windy way, it guided me to my teacher. And then that's how everything started going with understanding that these Kontomblé have been with me since I was born. And I just forgot, I forgot. I went through, the more and more conditioning at a certain, probably around, as a child, I think it just got more and more and more conditioning. And I just went through the process of going, just wanting to be like, going into conditioning of people pleasing and all these different things. And so it's trying to satisfy the outside world and not paying attention to the inside world. So something like that.
Oh, beautiful. And when did you know that you were really speaking to other dimensional beings and spirit? Because I've heard you on other podcast shows say that, you're yakking with people that have been physical and are now transitioned to another realm.
Did you say yakking?
Yakking. We
That's
call
awesome.
them dead people. They don't like to be called dead people. They say to me, you guys are more dead than we are. But anyway, we call them dead people. So when did you realize that you were talking to, beings in other realms?
I think it was probably increasingly so the deeper I was going in my studies with Maladoma, when I would go and train with him, then and the groups that would gather, then it seemed like it was progressively more and more my abilities were opening up. Being in powerful rituals and ceremonies, it was increasingly so opening up my abilities. And so it was kind of paying attention to this subtle, just like the subtle voice of the heart. It was like paying more and more attention to the subtle, and also actively going into ancestral healing, like doing a lot of ceremony to help my ancestors, the ones that were stuck, to help them to be well. And that helped to strengthen the connection more and more. And then for a while I was definitely more focused on ancestor healing, and it just kind of happened organically that people, when they find out that you can do that, then they come and they want to connect with their loved ones. So yeah, that was for a while when I started divining, what people also would be calling kind of like a reading or something like that. There was a lot of times people were coming to me to connect with their loved ones on the other side, which is really, really beautiful too, because it's so healing for people. It helps bring so much healing, like these unresolved wounds, that I would notice it brings all these like beautiful ripples into the ancestor realms. But so it started mostly with the ancestors, and it just kept progressing. It was opening more and more and more, but I was also engaging it. And the more I was practicing, and the more I was also started doing sessions with people, it kept getting stronger. But also what you were saying before about the tending shrines to the other world, then that's what I do. Is I tend shrines, is that I make offerings to spirit every day. So anytime when I'm sitting down to eat, or when I start the morning, I'm making an offering to the Divine Mother. I put honey and milk there, and I bow to the Divine Mother and honor her. And then I go through the days and I offer this oat milk that I've been making lately. I offer that to the earth, and I say thank you for another day, and I admire the beauty. And then it continues like that. I make offerings to the ancestors. I make offerings to the Kontomblé and the different beings, and sometimes to the sacred muses, different ones, and I'll hear what they ask for, and it continues to strengthen these what might be more subtle connections, and that subtle energy gets stronger, and it's a way of being with the other world in a way that is kind of devotional, really.
Yeah. Yeah, making offerings to the shrines of the other worlds. I'd never heard it said like that. That's beautiful. And it reminds me of Bali. You've obviously been to Bali, and they're everywhere.
Oh my God, it's so
everywhere.
beautiful.
Yeah, and the dogs eat the offering because they put these little packages everywhere, all over the streets, with a bit of a fire and a bit of rice and a bit of sugar, and they're offering to the ancestors and the spirits, and these little packages are everywhere, all over the street. And yeah, and they leave them there and the dogs come and eat them.
And then you can feel, I mean, I could feel when I was in Bali. Yeah, it's one of my favorite places to be. But Bali, that's one of the things I love about Bali is I was really amazed that they were able to maintain those practices with the strong influx of tourism from all of these different places, and I could still feel the sacred energy stronger. So it felt like everybody was held by that sacred energy, and that's what I experienced that strengthens the sacred, is all those offerings that they're making so in such a devoted way, and everybody's just continuously doing their part, including the incense in the airport. When I come in, I'm like, oh, it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, Bali, it's such a crazy place. A friend of mine just got back, and she said that it's just, I think it's even more crazy than before we had
wondered
COVID.
what it's like recently.
Yeah, I think that during COVID, when we're all shut down, the tourist industry is 90% of the industry there. And so everyone was out of work, and a lot of people went back to traditional things like farming seaweed and rice paddies. And because the tourist industry was, not happening, it really changed, and a lot of pollution got cleaned up, and it would have been beautiful to be there. I mean, people were sad because everyone had no money because of their livelihoods. But the peace of Bali would have been beautiful because it's crazy. And I think that when the doors opened, everyone celebrated, and people became even more chaotic and crowded. And she said that too. She said it was really, really busy. Very busy.
That's what I wondered. I wondered how the energy would be, after the lockdowns and everything. I was really curious about that in Bali.
I want to get more into that, talking to the other side, but I want to address to your fear of public speaking. And you said here that you feel like it's a big part of your soul's growth in this lifetime.
Yeah.
As I tune into you, I definitely see you. I see you as part of the Fae, and I see you making a decision to be human and then being persecuted for that. So there's been quite a few lifetimes where you have been persecuted for speaking your truth, which has transitioned into fear of public speaking, which is a big fear here on Earth.
Oh, yeah. Now you're going to make me cry. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Continue. Yeah. You really see. Yeah. Please continue.
Now, how did you overcome it? How did you deal with it?
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard. It's been really, really hard. Because, I wouldn't have, I was really comfortable working one-on-one with people. I really loved connecting, and because of the intense, like shy and just feeling so sensitive, and I really preferred to be one-on-one. Definitely. In my private practice, that was where I felt most at ease, most comfortable there, and really loved being in those deep spaces with people in San Francisco. And but it was trusting Maladoma, honestly, because it was what he saw in my medicine, and he was seeing, just to be a leader in these certain kinds of ways, and even particularly with the Kontomblé, the Fae, and it was through sitting in divination with him and just the way that he would share what he saw, and my heart and soul knew that he was really talking to me. And even though I couldn't imagine myself like that, I knew it was real what he was saying, because I would get so emotional. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do that? Because just being in a circle, forget about holding space for anybody else, just to be in a circle and to say my name was like the fight, flight, or fruit. It would get so strong, and my heart would be go, 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 go. And so it was just a lot of trauma healing. It consists, regularly, and just kept trying different ways, and trusting in the vision, and and also, while simultaneously showing up to the purpose, but also just letting people know I'm really nervous. And I just found the more I could speak vulnerably, then it kind of let the energy breathe a little bit. And if I knew that it was okay for me to basically be human, for my human to be, and I noticed the more I told people about that, it gave permission also for others to say, I also feel really nervous, and to find out that so many people feel really nervous and scared. And I made the decision to, I knew it would have been easier also to talk about ancestors when I was sharing more, like through social media and that. And I knew it would have been easier to say, oh, I'm intuitive, or to stay in like safer zones talking about the ancestors and everything. But I just knew it was important to take the risk for others who are connected to spirit, and it was like embodying the truth for me.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to hide. I don't want to hide, and I don't want to give the message to them that it's something shameful. I want to take a stand for them. No, I'm getting emotional.
Yeah, look, our voices on this planet have been silenced, and as healers, as women, as minority groups, as ethnic groups, our voices have been silent, and even silenced, like being beaten down, even with the platforms, like different platforms, the social media platforms and big search engine voices are still getting silenced. So the trauma around it is still here, like we are carrying the trauma of the ancestors. Like many people say, I was burnt alive as a witch, or I was slain for being a heretic of the church because I spoke up against the church, or I spoke up against the government, or I spoke for spirit. Yeah, it's been a big story on this planet, and so many people have that fear of public speaking. I was one of them. It was present when I was at school. Like if I had to read from a book, how kids stand up and read from the book, I would not go to school that day. It's like it was so present in me not to speak in front of people. The fear, this uncommon fear, like it's not so scary. Little kids are usually happy to, talk. So yeah, we're carrying the wounds of the ancestors, but we are the ancestors. Like we're carrying our own wounds. So my mother, who died young of cancer, has reincarnated. So she's carrying her ancestors' wounds, but it was her too in a past life, and we're doing the same thing. And this is the time to heal those wounds. This is the time.
Exactly. And I really appreciate and I honor your journey also, and you're the beautiful soul that you are, that you've worked your healing and being in that process to the point that you're able to share your beautiful light in the world. And that was basically the way that I was doing it. And actually it was, and in the book, and even I didn't want to write the book. The Kontomblé told me at a certain point in the journey, now write a book. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to write a book. I'm not a writer. You could tell your story. And we went a little bit at odds. But anyway, so I just told the story because they were saying it could be helpful to other, sensitive souls who have a similar journey or path, and helping them to know that there are others. So I wrote about it in the book, but when I wrote about how scary it's been and how I've just kept trying to find ways to muster up the courage. And it was, one of the, like, I'm going to get this tissue. One of the women's festivals or women's healing gatherings that I was at, that I was sharing about, I was going to have a Kontomblé ritual. And basically there was an undercover writer for Harper's Bazaar magazine who just, I guess you could say that would be like a hit piece on the gathering at large, and also just totally like mocked and ridiculed myself and the ritual and everything. And so that was just when it was. And then, so it's definitely been by now. And as I said, it's, people can be really nasty. I mean, people definitely can be pretty nasty. And so it's just been like what you're saying too, with so much aggressive energy coming out of people around 2020 and everything happening, is just, whole groups of people. And I'm talking about, I know this has happened to so many people. And also I could say at the next part of it, in the bigger creation energy, I am sure at this point, I believe I agreed to that, so there is I feel a little more progressed on the journey of it, and also acknowledging that, there's been some real vicious activity towards so many people. I mean, I was watching it, and that's what I was telling you before, why I got off social media, is because I'm sensitive. I could sense just arrows going everywhere through people, through words. And I'm not even just towards me, towards all kinds of people. And I was just having this strong feeling like, we could, like, people, this is a time to come together in love, and to, to join together with others that are, this is time to unify. But people have different ideas about, and the people I understand, I respect, souls come for different reasons, and we all come to learn, understand different things. But so that's been a more recent growth, is to understand, just to find ways to continue to heal that too, and to find ways to just let my heart keep expanding towards myself, towards others, forgiveness, compassion, trying to find a greater consciousness to understand what is all of this. I know that just continuously doing practices to find the greater consciousness of, so I'm not allowing myself to be hardened by life in any way. Just understanding, like, no, keep going, just keep holding the light steady.
Absolutely. When actually, I think it was when Trump got in, I posted something on Facebook about Trump. Not that I follow him. I don't think he's good. I don't think he's bad. I think he's doing his job. He did what he needed to do.
He's doing his job.
He did what he needed to do. And actually, when he got in, I was kind of shocked. Really? That sort of person? But there was a follower of mine that just was so vicious because I posted, and I said, I'm Australian. I don't follow Trump. I don't say he's good. But you have to understand, there was just something that happened that he was involved in that I thought was interesting. And so I shared the post. But to her, it meant that I was like, I upheld him as the savior, like many people do. And I was so amazed at how these beautiful, spiritual, loving female mothers and spiritual healers could get so vicious over a politician. And I'm like, whoa. But to me, I have to say, I don't get any negative comments anymore on my YouTube. I used to get a lot from Christians, from a lot of Christians who said that I was the devil, especially if I spoke to somebody.
What did they do that? They told you you're the devil?
Like Howard Storm, who's a pastor, they would follow him. And I got some, I thought they were hilarious. I kept them because I thought they were so hilarious. And
that's awesome.
And sometimes when people get really critical, I'll answer them I'll want to answer them like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And I'll just say, thank you for your appreciation. And then they turn into these like, oh my God, I love your podcast. But
Oh, that's awesome.
in that moment, they're having a critical thought and they feel like they need to voice it. Yeah, it's so interesting, these arrows that people throw with their words, as you say. And
Yeah, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful the way that you're it feels like loving Aikido or something like that. It just allows the energy to transform. It's beautiful the way that you are with the souls. I mean, I'm learning from you.
We can all be like that, really. To not be offended at other people's pain. I remember hearing a story of a guru who was attacked by one of his followers, saying that he was a charlatan and he was hurting people. And I remember he said, I thank you for your anger, but I offer it back to you. I don't accept your anger. Your anger is yours to deal with. It's not mine. And I just remember hearing the story or reading the story and thinking, I wish I could feel like that. Like, because I used to, like I see my daughter doing, get so offended when people came at me with anger or insults. Like I had done something wrong, not realizing that the person who is in pain is the one yelling, is the one that
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful that you have that awareness, and that, basically part of my pulling back from social media, and I was just doing a real kind of like deep dive inwards, and like as I was mentioning too, studying more of creation energy, and just basically taking the time to find just to love myself also, to love myself. That I find the more the self-love is there, then there's it's easier to allow it to be just water, and to be able to just be present with others' experience, and just to understand, to not take it personally, to not take it even if it is meant to be personal. And still just basically respect that that's their right. They're having their experience, whatever it is, to just make way for another's experience, whatever it is. And so I've just tried to kind of like dig into and just find the places in myself that felt hurt by or wounded or betrayed or these different things, and just keep working to heal, just try to continue to heal. And while simultaneously, it might have been, I wonder if it was, I'm not sure, however exactly I came to your channel, but if it was because I was looking more at kind of conscious creation. But I've been really, I hadn't put my attention so much there because I was focused on following the guidance of spirit and just kind of working in that way. And that was, they were big assignments. And so that was requiring a lot of attention, in these different places. And so then I just went more deep dive, and then just like, okay, I'm going to study this. I'm going to study my emotions. I'm going to study my thoughts more closely. And that's how I said too, that I realized the conscious creation too is like really, really studying my my subconscious and understanding, okay, let me take a deeper look back there and see, what's unhealed, what from my childhood, from a past life, what is this that is enabling, some big experiences like that to happen. And also to understand that some of these, to realize the importance of even especially the challenging experiences, that the importance of the learning that comes from that, the perspective that comes from that, becomes medicine, or it can be medicine, which I believe that you embody.
Well, darling one, if I embody it, you embody it too. You absolutely. It's not always easy, practicing what you preach. It's not always. I had a bit of a flip out the other day. I had a girlfriend here, and I had driven for 6 hours, and then she was making demands on me, and my frustration turned into and then I sat down and I just apologized and said, I'm sorry for getting upset. But yeah, just that fatigue turned into like frustration, and turned into like a bit of a freak out. But it wasn't anything.
Not that energy.
Yeah, it was just something that, but as you say, if we can be vulnerable and and admit when we're wrong.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and apologize and say, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I was not feeling good. Yeah, then we're doing the healing. That's what we're all here to do. We're here to clean up that mess of the separation thinking, separate to love, separate to God, separate to what we think we want, you know, feeling like the other or this life or the earth is responsible for how we feel, feeling like we're not getting what we want. We're separate from that feeling of joy and love. But you've been traveling. So I was saying to Liv before we came online that I was listening to another podcast show, and the girl that you were speaking to, whose name escapes me, I've forgotten, was saying, oh, you just have to check out her beautiful Instagram. It's of her pictures of her traveling all over the world and doing her thing. And I looked and I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
So what's your Instagram? And then Liv shared with me that she went off in 2020 because of what was going on online, all the spears, as you say, everyone hating each other. So she just went off Instagram. But I'd love you to go back on, because I think you've got a lot of beautiful images and stories to share of your travels. Do you want to share some of them with us today, working with the Kontomblé and the Fae, and what they've had to say to you about different parts of the planet?
Yeah, I think you had mentioned the gathering in Tokyo and or in Japan, and for some reason that one just jumps out, and that was that was one. Yeah. So basically, progressively, each one really in the different places, the Kontomblé, they would bring through these strong messages of, okay, now go there, and I might not understand. I'm like, Japan, or understand how every time, you know, they're like, trust us, just just do this. And then so next thing you know, yeah, you're like renting a space in Tokyo. Brought us on quite the journey. But it was beautiful because with that one in particular, they were asking for an honoring of Mount Fuji and also an honoring of the whales. And so, yeah, speaking of the shrines, then we created these shrines there. We created these shrines for the whales in this gallery space, for the whales and for Mount Fuji. The Japanese people that I met there, encountered, they're, oh my God, such beautiful souls. And I felt their connection with elementals. You know, I tell my friend Kyoko this a lot. I'm like, wow, it's amazing. They felt, yeah, it's just, you might experience that in different places, just their unique connections to the spiritual dimensions. But so there was a translator, and when the Kontomblé come in, this is a traditional way, but that basically I learned this from Maladama, that in a traditional way to the Dagra, that you the Kontomblé Voice Diviner, that you would go behind a curtain. There would be some kind of like a veil between you and the person, so they're not looking directly at you. And I think it's helpful anyway, because it just allows people to actually connect with the spirit, and there's not the distraction of, you know, the person, where you're looking at the person, and, you know, where you actually can connect with the actual message of what's coming through. But so I was behind a screen there. The Kontomblé were coming through, and I was bringing through the messages, and then the translator was translating them. There was one message in particular that it was saying something. It was something like, and when you look into the eyes, yeah, I felt emotional even now feeling it. It's like when you look into the eyes of your children, you'll see the whales looking back at you, something like that. And when she translated, I could just feel the whole energy like ripple through the room, and could feel like crying happening, you know. So there would be these times, yeah, these moments that they share so specifically, so uniquely to each community, whoever they're talking to. And every time I don't know what they're talking about, so I just translate the messages. Or there was the time when we were with the reindeer people, and I remember they were making a joke, because they do make jokes, and they were making a joke about, I didn't realize that they were a matriarchal people, but the Kontomblé, they were making some joke about, you know, when did you stop becoming matriarchal? It was because they were talking about some situation that happened. They were making a joke with them, and they were confused. They're like, we still are matriarchal. What are you talking about? But they have a way that they understand, you know, they understand the people, and so they're making a joke, but they have these really beautiful ways. There's ways I remember that they were honoring them, that they were, you know, saying something like, if there's even one of them missing or gone, it's like the constellation is not the same. You know, they were speaking about how important each of their souls are. I remember that. And then I remember this was funny. This was a funny time that one time I wrote about this in the book, that I was married for a short time, and during that time I was still maintaining my practice, but more of the focus was on the marriage, I would say, for sure. And we went to India, we went to Rishikesh in India, and we were going through this yoga teacher training. And I remember I was, if anything, I was trying to kind of like veil what I did. And I was at this Ayurvedic clinic, and I was sitting with the doctor, and I was like filling out the form. He was asking questions, I guess, that would be determining the dosha or something like that. So he was asking questions, and he asked about my profession, and I was even like trying to kind of like mumble it and say under, I was like, oh, something, I work with the ancestors or something. I tried to kind of like mumble it and he picked up on it, and he was like, what? And he just he said, like, what did you say? And he said, he was like, I believe in that. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was trying to just keep talking about the dosha. I was like, you want to keep talking about the Ayurveda? And then he started, it was like the whole energy shifted, and he just kept asking me questions. And I was like, oh, there's a thing that I do. And anyway, he was basically like, is it possible that my wife and I could work with you? And I was like,
Oh,
yeah, I guess we could do that. And I was explaining about the Kontomblé, and it's kind of weird. And I was explaining how it happens. He was like, no, we understand, you know, we honor that.
mhm.
And so we're there at the Ayurvedic clinic. I'm laughing just because it seems so bizarre. And I was excited, but in some ways it was just right in that environment because of their understanding of spirituality and spirit and all these altars and shrines. So in some ways it was just right. But I go there before the Ayurvedic clinic opened up, and it felt like such a healing experience, honestly, to work with them, because they were so honoring. And a lot of people, they don't know how to be with it. It's kind of weird, and people just aren't raised with it usually, you know, modernity. And so it's just kind of, there's a whole extra energy around it just to even get to the actual thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of people's process with it. It's just part of the modern times. But anyway, so it felt so healing anyway to be with them. They were so honoring. But so we went into this, and it was beautiful. And the Kontomblé and their ancestors brought through messages, and it felt like it was really supportive to them. And it was a really, really beautiful experience. And then later, where my ex-husband and I were staying, somebody came and they were saying, could you come back to the doctor's clinic? He's told these people, there's a group of people that want to meet you. And I was like, uh-oh. So it feels like they've taken me on a journey. I've been on the Kontomblé journey, and yeah, that's a little bit about it.
Where are you in the world at the moment? Because you're not in the state, because you're born in the States, right? You're born in the
I'm
States?
born in the States. Yeah, I'm born in the States, and right now, currently, I'm visiting Scotland.
Scotland. You're in Scotland.
Yeah.
And what are the Kontomblé, the Fae saying to you about that land? I mean, that
Mm.
the stories, the Scottish, the Scottish, they have so many stories of the Fae and the elves and the leprechauns and all that sort of stuff. Was that Irish? I think
Mhm.
I was Irish. But anyway, they've got the same thing going on, I think.
It's felt like an honor to be here. Yeah, every time the different places where we go, the energy feels so, yeah, it feels so different in each place. And I have a lot of ancestors from Scotland, so in some ways it's felt like my ancestors have felt really happy about me being here, and so it's felt healing in that way, to be, you know, to feel that something like a loop connected, or something like some completion of a loop, or the particular Scottish ancestors that I am related to that are of this region. But and then yeah, the little people that I feel here, the Kontomblé, they tell me, I don't know exactly their name. For sure, I connect with the Fae, and my dear friend who I work with very regularly, she is so connected to the Fae. And so the Fae, yeah, I feel like I'm connected to the Fae, and also likely I'm one. But it's felt the ones that I feel here, they talk about them being sturdy. Like I feel them like this, like they would be, it feels like the name would be like the sturdy ones or something. They feel hardy, really hardy. The little people that it's like, ooh, feel them a little bit like that, like like they have a little gruff to them or something, you know. And so like they don't want to be called like dainty or something like that, you know.
They've got don't mess with me energy. Don't mess with me.
It feels a little bit like it feels endearing to me. I feel like I love it too. I feel it in the people that I've met here. And I don't know why. I feel like it must be the Kontomblé for some reason. I feel like I want to just like acknowledge their sturdiness or something. I was telling my friend about, I'm like, it's the strangest thing. Like I feel like I just want to not shake them like you're doing something wrong, but shake them like honoring their sturdiness. But it must be the Kontomblé. They're like, it's like an acknowledgement. There's something sturdy. It feels sturdy, like an ancient tree. And so I'm really, really loving the ancient stone beings here, the mountains, and I feel the strength of the natural world here, which feels awesome, and not like a lot of places. A lot of places I feel different, like portals and things shut down. So I feel really, really, it feels so relieving. It feels so relieving to feel the strength of the natural world, and that I can feel like the songs in the nature. I can feel them singing still. So I make offerings to them, and I feel their strength. I love that.
Yeah, Scotland has one of the few wildernesses left in Europe. You know, it's like you can drive up out of England into Scotland, and when you go into the north, and you can, because most of Europe and England, you see there's not something that you don't see, stone walls or houses or something, because it's so crammed. And then Scotland has this sort of wilderness area.
I heard that. Yeah, I didn't know that from direct experience, but I did. I heard that, and you can really feel it. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I always like I feel most at home in the wilderness. I feel most at home in nature. And so when I'm in places where there's like just the cities and everything, usually I get like, I get a little anxious and itchy.
Yeah, fair enough. You are so sensitive. It's like you're so crazy sensitive. Yeah. But there are a lot of people out there like you who are crazy sensitive, who become victims to their sensitivity because they are so sensitive. And as I say, that work that we were talking about, not taking things personally.
Yeah, exactly.
We're often picking up energies and we're saying, oh, I feel like this, or it's mine. But because we're sensitive, we're picking up these energies. Of course, they have to be a match to the energy we're carrying. So it's not like you can't claim some of it, but not all of it. Like it's just amplified, and it can be overwhelming. I know when I was expanding my field, when I was expanding my psychic abilities, that was happening to me. I was in a place of overwhelm most of the time. But what do the Fae, what do the Kontomblé, as you've spoken to these beings that look after the natural world, what is their message to us humans, or to humanity? What has the consensus been as you've spoken to different ones around the world?
The general message that I do hear a lot is they're calling us to return to, it's like our shared humanity, to return to our hearts, to return to kindness, to return to generosity. That's what I hear a lot, is they're trying to encourage people to return to those ways, to understand our place in the web of life and the web of creation. And so that's what I hear from them a lot. And also I hear them talk a lot about not getting possessive, encouraging us to understand that I have heard this message from them in so many different places. It's like we don't own this. That's what I hear consistently from them in different places. And they talk about how humans have gotten kind of like, they'll call it like grippy or something. It's just like, this is mine, this is mine. And so they teach a lot about, I mean, in a way you could say it's kind of like fundamental values of spirituality in a sense too. I mean, really the things that they're teaching about is really the heart of what a lot of spiritual understanding is, of ways that we be with each other, and understanding it's like that we're encouraging the understanding that we're always encouraging us to be a part of the stream of life of creation, and to rather than like gripping, it's just like expanding and sharing and caring, and the open-hearted way, which the more I contemplate it and everything, it's like, how would we be connecting with spirit in any other way other than the heart? It seems so obvious. Like the more I think, muse on that, it's like, of course we'd be connecting from the heart. What else are we doing if we're not connecting from the heart? It's like the heart that's connecting us to the spiritual dimensions. So I would say those are some of their regular messages or study messages that I hear from the different ones. And they encourage offerings a lot. I've heard that there was a situation I remember in a particular, I'll just speak generally, in a particular land on earth that a woman had contacted me about. They were having a really tough time in this area, and she asked me if I would consult with a Kontomblé about what was happening. And in that particular place, there was, if I remember correctly, there was some kind of like spirit bear, and the spirit bear is a certain kind of guardian of the forest. And they were saying, like to this different forest, these ancient ones, that there's a protocol, there's ways that you honor making offerings and everything. And so this was seen as some kind of spiritual trespass or something, like a spiritual trespass to this particular ancient trees, these ancient beings, of ways how that was received. And so I was connecting with the little people of that land, and then they were bringing these messages through. And so there was a kind of you could say like a spiritual repair in a way, just like how we can repair relations or apologize for any, like what we were talking about before. Even if we didn't mean to hurt somebody, they can be hurt, and we can apologize for that, just if you care about those relations. So that situation, they were asking for that was helping to restore the relations, and so there could be harmony and understanding. So it seems that the different beings have gotten disconnected, in the understanding of the ways that we be in honor of the spirit beings that inhabit the natural world.
Yeah. When I hear you say, let go of our possessiveness, possessiveness is a feeling of lack, that you need to hang on to something because it won't come again. Like what I feel you saying, it's like, be generous, knowing that there is no lack. And I was thinking this yesterday morning as I was scraping out the seeds from a papaya. And there's just millions of seeds, and every single seed can create like there's all these tiny seeds, and each one of those tiny seeds can create another papaya tree full of papayas. And I was just thinking of the abundance of the natural world is just so huge, like a strawberry. Think about a strawberry. All over the cup, it's like the seeds, and each seed can create a plant that can create. Like there's just so much abundance in that. So possessiveness comes from a thought rooted in limitation, in that I'm limited in some way, and there's not enough. It's that separateness to abundance, which is, and abundanceness is that connection to love, and generosity is love. So that's what I felt that they were saying through you. Different words, same meaning. But
exactly. Yeah, totally. And what you're saying too, it is that. I love that too, about nature, you see that. And just like that, it's like
So abundant.
nature is so generous, and we are nature. And I've needed to be really mindful, or I've chosen to be very mindful about who I've been tuning into in the past couple of years, also to try not to get caught in, snared in the fear, and then rather pull back and then go into the Kontomblé. They keep asking me, study what matter is made of, keep understanding what is matter made of. And I don't know that I can tell you the answer yet. But I have some ideas.
Well, I'd love to hear your ideas, but I'm going to tell you what Deepak Chopra said, like the stuff of the universe is not stuff, everything is molecules and energy. Everything is energy. And matter is like, we call matter, and we call it solid and real because we can perceive it, but it's actually just energy. And I thought to myself when I was listening to Deepak, I'm hearing feedback. I thought to myself when I was listening to Deepak years ago, he would say, there's no stuff in the universe. It's all energy. So matter is not matter. Nothing matters. Nothing matters.
Yeah.
No matter.
Yeah.
It's all energy. Mm.
Yeah. It feels like you've deep dived into that matter. And sometimes the Kontomblé will say matter is of the mother. Sometimes I say mother. So they say it's of the mother. But yeah, so when you observe it in that way, go into the tiny, and then understand where is this all arising from anyway, you see it's not limited. It's ever generous. It's sometimes you just gotta. Sometimes they encourage me to go like bigger, like a bird's eye vision, and then sometimes more recently it's been tiny. They say, look at it. What is it made of? And then they'll ask me like, why are you worrying about it? Why are you allowing yourself? And then okay, let me just clear my energy and remember. And so I've just chosen to kind of go deeper into communion with the other world, study, and just keep understanding it, to not get caught up in the fray.
Beautiful message from our elemental friends. You're also speaking with spirit. What are they? You're somebody that helps spirit who are still caught in their thought form matrix, even though they've transitioned out of their body, right? So they're in a realm which is a vibrational match to their beliefs. Some people call it a hell's realms or purgatory, or they're earthbound. There's been lots of talk about this, and you're someone that helps these minds, these energy vortices. Do you want to speak about that a bit?
They get stuck sometimes. I believe you've had NDE, near-death experiencers, on your show before, yeah?
Yeah, many. Yeah.
Okay. So in that, what I believe happens, if it's from the process of the person that's died and they're in that journey, I believe why do they get stuck? I believe they get stuck is because they don't believe they deserve to, go on. They feel really badly about what they've done. Sometimes they die traumatically. They don't even know they're dead. So many things, they get just stuck in what could be called just negative energy, really. It's different expressions of that. It just kind of gets a real deep hold on the person, and they maybe progressively through their life, but it can happen in different ways. And really, so my understanding is that different cultures, different traditions throughout the ages would have some kind of practices, songs, ways coming together in community to make sure that that soul is transitioning, that they're going to be a healthy ancestor. So they're tending to the dead, you could say, to make sure that they become an ancestor. And then there would be ways that somebody would divine, and they would be tending to life in that way, to the continuity. And so this hasn't been happening for many of us for so many generations, and all kinds of traumas, and it just gets cumulative through the generations. And so people get stuck. And sometimes, like with my dad's dad, I didn't meet on this side, but I met him in spirit form. He needed to tell my dad, this is from his perspective, he needed to tell my dad that he wanted to apologize to my dad for not being a good father. And he was holding on because I believe he knew he was dead. He just was like, oh shit, I need to tell him this. He realized at that point, and he couldn't let himself go on until he did that. And so I actually held space, you could say. So I was on the phone with my dad, and then his dad was coming through, and he was saying to my dad was grieving. And so that was also making way for the healing between them and for his dad to transition. So it helped in all these different ways. And so that's, yeah, for a while I was really focused on that and supporting people in these different ceremonies and helping their stuck loved ones to transition, or it could be a friend of theirs that is close to them, that, and they may not know it consciously, but that energy ends up kind of like attaching in these kinds of ways. And then just like what you were saying about the what were you saying about the scarcity or the feeling of lack, the feeling of lack,
Possessiveness.
yeah,
Yeah.
that can be really ancestral. And so those energies, I believe, actually more often than not are ancestral, that people are expressing without maybe being conscious of it. And then so once the ancestor or the family member goes through the process of releasing and going to the light, basically, where are they going? They're going to the light. Whatever that person sees that to be, the realm of the ancestors, the light, they're going beyond what people would talk about in their near-death experience. They're moving into the light. They get, it's like dropping the density. But so they're able to go there, and it's this huge release and support for the ancestors, and also for the loved ones, and for the collective, and in all these different ways it ends up rippling this real generous, beautiful energy. Recently, though, I've noticed in the past couple years, I've noticed a lot of people dying. The reason why I've noticed that is because I can say that more personally is because I realize I get pinged. This is what I noticed was happening. Somebody would come into my, and I was like, how did that come in? It seemed random. So when I was tuning in, I'm like, they're not alive. I would ask Spirit, I was like, are they alive? So it seemed what was happening is they were going into their life review. And because whatever, they were having some experience with me from this lifetime. And so I was getting pinged. And so basically what I would do, and sometimes when it was repetitive, I kept hearing a certain person's name. I was like, what is going on? And so I asked Spirit, have they made it to the light? No. Would it be an overstep to their soul is if I support them, ask their guardian angels to help them to come into the light? Would that be an overstep? So, no, I ask their guardian angels, can you please help them to go into the light? And then I would notice that I wouldn't hear their name anymore. But what I feel, actually, more recently, though, I feel it's easier for the souls to transition, because I believe that there's a huge process going on right now. And I believe that there's so much support on the earth. So that is something that I feel that it's actually in some ways easier to support them to transition. I notice sometimes when I feel in a ceremony, I feel, oh, there's ones that need to transition. It takes so little effort. It's just like a little push. Like if it was a woman giving birth, very little labor. So in comparison to before, so different. Because I believe there are so many angels, there's so many beings, galactics, that are supporting this transition, trying to help people to get well and to ascend, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting. When 9/11 hit, one of my clients actually rang me in the morning and she said, have you got the television on? It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. And I said, no. She said, "You're not watching the news?" I said, "No." She said, "Turn it on." And they were just on repeat showing the towers coming down, because it had happened overnight in Australia, our time. I think it was the morning in the States. And so I watched this for like a whole day, and then I was just saying to Spirit, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? So I went over there with my consciousness and watched what was happening. It was so interesting what I saw. Because a lot of people were dying suddenly, and like you said, they didn't know they were dead. Because like one minute they're sitting at their desks, the next minute they're not at their desk. They still think they're sitting at their desk. And there's all these people around them that are actually dead as well. And they said, just like you said, there was so much help because this was predestined. This was going to happen in this timeline that we're on. And there were people that were incarnate, like angels, if you like, or spirit guides that were incarnate, and people that were not incarnate that were there to help the transitioning souls. Like there were firemen. I saw firemen who had died in the collapse that had instantly awakened to their mission to be a guide, a spirit guide to those transitioning souls. And so they look like a fireman because they're wearing their astral form, and they were saying, come with me, it's okay. And these people that didn't actually know they were dead were following the firemen. And it was so interesting. And I was just watching all this unfold. And then I was thinking, oh, they don't need my help. There's plenty of help. And it's just reiterating what you're saying. There's so much help. There's just so much help for
That's awesome that you were able to connect with it in that way, that you were able to
just go have a look. I just went like, I felt helpless here in Australia as I was watching this unfold on the television. And the question was, how can I help? Let me go and have a look. How can I help? And actually, I didn't need to do anything. I didn't need to do anything. I just witnessed this. And years later, there were these stories that came out of specifically the firemen that had died, and how amazing they were as humans, and what angels they were on earth, such giving, loving, generous, helping souls that had become these firemen that had died. And I thought, wow, that's so interesting, because they kind of elected to come in to a life to be there for that. It's so interesting how it's all,
and it's nice.
designed.
It's nice the way that you emphasize that part too, because I know that whole experience it seemed like it got really manipulated in certain ways. And what I also remember hearing so much was about people helping and caring and loving, and that there can be a kind of like program about that humans are different than that. And it's like, no, actually, those are the stories that I was hearing first when I was tuning in more to what was happening in New York. So it's really beautiful that you shine a light on that.
Yeah. I mean, disaster does bring out the best in people. Often disasters are designed from the higher realms to actually do that, to elect that, to bring out the humanity, the unity and the humanity. It's like
it's such an interesting system, Karen.
Right.
I'm just learning about it.
I know. It's like you can live next door to somebody for 20 years and never talk to them, and then your house falls down, or the street floods or something, and there's a fire, and then you're hugging your next door neighbor like they're your best friend. Like it's
That's
just
amazing.
It's where disaster brings out that. But yes, the help in the other realms is amazing. How we've got all this help. So we've been yakking, love that word, yakking for ages. There's just so much for you to share. It's been so beautiful to feel you. You're just amazing. You're so sensitive. Honestly, as I said to Liv before we started, I've spoken to so many people over the years, and so many people are like, right, I'm going to be on this podcast and it's going to be all about me. They don't even bother to tune in who you are. And Liv is like, before she's even come on the show, she's totally tuned in and so sensitive. I would highly recommend.
I love your sensitivity too. Like I said, it's it's like it's brought out all of these awarenesses and understandings and everything that I felt like weren't even there before. It's because of your soul.
Yeah, that's the point of these podcast shows that I do, because I had a comment from someone which my ego wanted to get upset about the other day. Like, I loved this conversation. It was wonderful, but I wish the host would shut up and let the other person talk. And I'm like, Right. So there's this idea that the host is just the question asker, and then you just fire questions and then disappear, and you don't offer who you are. And I think that if two healers come together to have a conversation, the combination of your experience and my experience comes together, and together we create this new experience for you and I and for everyone listening. And I think that that's such a beautiful thing that happens on spiritual and conscious podcast shows, because all the hosts, pretty much most of them, are healers in their own right, you know, even if they call themselves interviewers. Yeah.
That's what I appreciated that you call it, that you referred to it as a conversation too, because for me, in different interviews too, I always felt like that's my preference is to, we're, you know, not like it's like we're here together, we're doing this thing, we're here together.
Yeah. So you want people to go to your website. I want you to start up another Instagram account. I know we were talking about if you don't get on Instagram, where do you go? And I really don't know. We
were talking about that before we started recording. It's like, what is that platform? I know.
What is that platform? Adam Apollo, if you watch the show with Adam Apollo, he is creating a platform, which he said will probably be out next year, 2024, maybe mid to late 2024. He said he's been working on it for 15 years, but it sounds like an awesome platform.
It does sound like an awesome platform.
There have been platforms that have come and gone that have been like conscious or spiritual kind of social media platforms, and they just didn't have the tech and they didn't have the money behind it. You know, these Facebook, Instagram type big mega platforms, they've got the grunt behind them that keeps them going and keeps them improving. And even though they do tend to censor what they don't want you to hear, but I would love to see more, you know, pop your photos of your journeys around the world and
maybe I will.
Places you've been. It'd be lovely. But your website is beautiful and your book sounds amazing. Is there anything you'd like to leave with us before we go?
I'm so honored to have connected, and it's been beautiful. Oh, well, I guess the Kontomblé said, you can tell. Oh, well, yeah. If people are wanting to connect with, I just remember they reminded me that it's funny. They just reminded me there's this, if they go to the website and they're wanting to experience a ceremony, we do actually, speaking of seeds, we have a seed planting ceremony, seed planting, dream planting, Kontomblé ceremony coming up on, I think it's September 3rd. That's on the website. And then also soon, just right around the corner, maybe by the time this is shared, I'm not sure, we're about to share our new school that I'm really excited about. So if people want to tune into that, it's going to be on the website.
What is the school teaching people about connecting to the Kontomblé or to?
We're it's a lot of the work, many of the ceremonies, not all, but many of them, and this one in particular is for the feminine, it's for women, for the feminine. It's in honor of the feminine. And then it's this particular one, we're going into a lot more vision, receiving vision, working a lot with vision, and also connecting to the different, we'll be working with the Kontomblé, we'll be working with different galactics that have been asking for us to bring people together in council, you could say. And then, so kind of supporting more of the galactic soul and that kind of the integration in those ways. And then also they're bringing in some star medicine. They've been talking about star medicine. So they're working with us with star medicine, and there's other things too, but that's a little bit about it.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, Liv, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much to you, Karen.
Such an honor and blessing.
I look forward to the next.
How glorious, how gorgeous to connect with Liv and her beautiful energy. Such a sensitive, so sensitive. Amazing, 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 amazing. Yeah, you know me. I've spoken to many healers, teachers, experiencers on this platform for many years, and there are some extraordinary standouts. Liv was one of them in her energy. It's difficult for people that are that sensitive and psychic as she said, she struggles with feeling all the energies around the world, and it translates often as fear of public speaking and all sorts of shyness and stuff like that. I know the story. That was me. But when we do embody love, we've got nothing to fear, really. Really, we've got nothing to fear. What is it? Walk in the shadow of the valley of death, whatever they say. I fear no evil, whatever that is out of the Bible. You guys know that better than me. Terrible with my Bible verses, but they come to mind every now and then. Yeah, fear no evil. You don't have to fear when you're an embodiment of the brilliance of who we are as an extension of the source. And love, I think Michael Tamura said it beautifully. We were talking about this on one of the shows one day. And he said that if you could see yourself as a glass, as a window, and see that the energy enters your field, your energy field, but just like a pane of glass, when the sun comes through, it doesn't stop and get caught inside the glass. It just goes straight through. If you can see energies, you feel them, you experience them, you don't have to suffer for them, and they just move on through. They don't get stuck and torture you and your energy. You don't get tortured by the amplification of the distorted energy that you feel. You can just move on through your field. Like, imagine yourself like a clean pane of glass. My windows don't look so clean at the moment, but clear, clean pane of glass, and that energy just moves through. So yeah, you get to experience it, but you don't suffer from it. To the sensitives that are listening. Yeah, Liv, when we finish that, normally people stay online and we have a bit of a chat, but she reached over and I lost her. So we didn't get to chat after the show, but just such beautiful energy. If you want to check out her website, it's a beautiful website. Her book is on there, or you can I think it's on Amazon. You can get it on the Amazon link on my page, where you'll see our conversation and the bio and the links and everything that you need to find her. As she said, she went off all social media. She went off Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So she's not on any social media. She's just communicating through her website and her newsletter. So if you want to keep in contact with her, that's the way you find her. And you can find me on all those platforms: social media, website, newsletters, all that stuff. I'm terrible at putting out newsletters, actually. I've got to do one tomorrow. I could be more vigorous in talking to you all through the newsletter, but I'm not good because I talk to you through this medium. Come listen to me on one of these video audio platforms. Anyway, who's coming up? I had a bit of a chat with Sheila Seppi the other day on Cosmic Conversations for the Conscious Awakening Network and the Galactic Alliance. We did some healing. I had the guides in my ear about cleaning up density on this planet because, that movie came out, The Sound of Freedom, and I haven't seen the movie. Sheila said she'd seen it, but I'd watched a lot of interviews around the movie, how it was made, who made it, who was in it, why they were in it, what it's about. So I listened to a lot of stuff. And I just thought, whoa, how prolific this distorted sexual energy is around the world. This enslavement energy is around the world, so distorted. And I asked the question, it's great to hear people going and rescuing children and from being abused, but that's the end product. It's what causes people to abuse. That was the question I asked. And it said their consciousness, forgetting who they are, of course. And so what can we do as healers? Well, I did that with the group. And if you want to check that out, do it. Join us with the Conscious Awakening Network. Go to the Conscious Awakening Network. It's on YouTube. It's on all the social media platforms, but it's also on things like Roku and Amazon Fire. And there's an app. You can download the app on your iPhone or your Android. And you can watch a plethora of conscious conversations or cosmic conversations on the Conscious Awakening Network. But I got the group to do a prayer and to send that energy towards that distortion, because as the guides say through Paul Selig, my guides say the same thing, but Paul just uses these words. I can't beat them, so I just give it to him. When you see the divine in what you look at transforms. So when you can look at something and see the divine in it, your attention to the divine in it transforms it back into light. So if we deem something as evil or darkness, then law of attraction says, and so it is. But if we deem it as part of light or consciousness or the unified field or God or whatever you want to call that, then the universe says, and so it is. And then there is a different experience coming out of that. So we are powerful with our powerful focus and our attention and our judgments. So what we judge as divine, it is so, and what we judge as evil, we create. What do you want to do? So we did that with the group. That was a very important message that came through with the group that I did. So Sheila is actually going to be the next speaker in the Inner Sanctum. She's got a lot to say. She's been doing twice a week. She's been holding groups and cosmic conversations and uploading everyone's stuff onto the Conscious Awakening Network. And she's also an incredible healer herself. She works in a healing, she's got a healing with her son, a healing practice in that state that she lives in the USA. She's told me a million times and I've forgotten. And she's amazing, a walk-in, and she's got a lot to share. So we're going to catch up with Sheila in the Inner Sanctum. Do join us. Also this weekend, I'll have this up. Hopefully I'll have this up, but it's me in the Inner Sanctum. I'm always at the beginning of the month. I will come on and we just, we have a family reunion, as Sheila calls it. People can just come on and chat about what they're going through, ask questions, meet each other. If you want to join us, please do come on. It's free or by donation. I do appreciate any donations if you choose to make a donation, but it's not mandatory. And I'll remember to check out the book Awakened by Death. Say that every time. If you haven't already, it's a great read, many amazing stories. And I'll catch you next show. Bye for now.